Hey everyone. My name is Liz. I'm a physician assistant specializing in functional and integrative medicine. Just a little bit of background on my story. I've had some unfortunately poor experiences working with larger companies and corporations in the wellness space. And so I decided to venture off and start my own practice called Align Daily Wellness so that it can really be patient-centered and focused. And what I do is I take a root cause approach to your health. Instead of just looking at things like calories or diets or your symptoms, I really want to know why these things are happening, and I help you to empower and educate and take control of your health. And so Kate and I recently met, and we felt a lot of synergy around how we like to coach and help our clients. And we're excited to get some information out to you today.
Yeah, super excited. So, I'm Kate Johnston. I'm an eating habits and weight loss coach. I help career women, but more specifically, women in healthcare. And a lot of the things that I help them with, they kind of mesh really well with what Liz is going to be talking about today. So, we figured we'd bring this conversation to you.
Absolutely. So today's conversation is going to be around a few topics that have to do all about nutrition. So it's about what are we eating, when are we eating, how are we eating, and then a few things like hydration and sleep that can really supplement good eating habits. So that's what we'll be diving into today.
Yes, I love it. I love that it is I feel like a lot of times people are just focusing on what to eat regarding nutrition. And so I love that there is this more kind of wholesome approach to it. And I'm going to be sharing some action tips to help you actually implement some of these things into your life and also even mindset shifts to help our listeners to implement these and mindset shift to help them with the actual action.
It's absolutely because here's what you need to do. And then there's also, okay, but how? And how do I make this part of my life? So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk about some things that can be implemented, and then from your end, exactly how somebody that doesn't yet have these habits, they can start to add one by one and take their time and approach it, knowing that mindset is also such a huge part of habit change.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right, Liz, you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Super. So I know that you and I both share a similar philosophy on when it comes to eating, and we know that it's not just as simple as calories in, calories out. And I really am like all about simplifying eating to take pressure off of people, and especially um, a lot of people can feel like, well, there's just so much information out there. So like what are your thoughts on oversimplifying and calories in, calories out? What do you feel like there is as far as like what we're eating, like what we should kind of be paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think calories in and calories out was kind of like an outdated way to think about your food. Sure, it's important if you're just focusing on weight loss or weight gain, because at the end of the day, it's about calories, but that is an oversimplified approach. So there are a lot of things that we should also be thinking about. Besides even macronutrients, we want macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats, and they have different calories per gram. But we also want to think about micronutrients, phytonutrients, and the is our food processed? Is it a whole food? Is it, and also within processed food, there's ultra processed food. So just starting to become familiar and aware that these things are important for your body's functions. So micronutrients are things like vitamins and minerals that our bodies need to function. Our cells use these for cell communication, for hormone optimization, for brain function, for reducing inflammation, for our gut health. So some examples are things like magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, our B vitamins, and we get these through food, but of course we can also supplement them as well, but a supplement should be supplement, not kind of first go to. And what they do is they help us with fatigue and brain fog and hormone balance, detoxification, things like that. And then phytonutrients are plant compounds that protect and help our bodies heal. So, some examples of these are polyphenols, which we get from berries and green tea, flavonoids from citrus, onions, garlic. Sulforaphane is a really, really big help with detoxification. And the best source of this is broccoli, specifically raw broccoli. And then there's carotenoids, which we get from yellow orange veggies, carrots, sweet potatoes, oranges, things like that.
And Liz, I feel like we're always told to like look at ingredient lists on foods, and all the long names that you can't pronounce are the foods that you want to stay away from. But in this case, the long names that you can't pronounce,
Yes, these are
right?
long names that you actually want to remember, and you want to remember them as good and helpful. But these are actually not ingredients that you would see. These are just like kind of names of compounds, which it's just good to know what kind of falls under those umbrella terms. But again, just for people to kind of be aware of what compounds can be found in what foods and what are the benefits.
Right. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So one of the action tips that I would like to suggest is it can feel overwhelming to be like, okay, do I have to incorporate all of these foods into my diet, like all of these healthy foods? And I think simplifying, this is a point where we do want to simplify it and make it as easy as possible to add something into your day or swap something out. So, for example, if you have traditionally been snacking on one of those like ultra processed foods, um, like crackers or chips or what have you, maybe take a food that is more of a whole food that has some of these nutrients in it and one that you actually enjoy. Because if you don't like carrots, you're not going to want to put that into your day. Your brain is
Right.
going to very much resist that, and it's not going to be easy to do. So, something that you actually truly enjoy. So, let's say blackberries. So, like for me, for example, I would maybe to do, so I love cookies, so I love to bake cookies. So maybe instead of like four cookies for a snack, I would have two cookies and a handful of blackberries. So make it easy to do, an easy swap that you feel like you would actually
Mhm.
enjoy doing. And if it's something that is easy access, like easy to grab, because that box of crackers or the bag of chips, that's going to be easy, right? So we need to make the thing that we want to be eating or want to be adding in easy to do as well. So like for us at our house, the thing of blackberries, I'll either put them in a little bowl in the fridge or I'll take open up the lid on the package so
Mhm.
that I can just reach into the fridge and grab the blackberries. Or if it's something that you have to cut a bunch of it up ahead of time so that it's already set to go and it's easy to do.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I really love that approach because you said instead of four cookies, I'll maybe have two and blackberry. So you're not completely restricting yourself. We don't want to, obviously, as you know, do that because then at some point we're just gonna binge all of these cookies.
Mhm.
And preparation is so huge. So I'm very similar. I try not to have things in my apartment that I know I might make a bad decision if I'm in a bad mood or if I'm stressed or if I'm come home super starving and something is there, I'm gonna grab it. So I think that's one thing that has really helped me as well. It's funny because when people come over and my friends come over, they're like, "Oh, you don't have any like snacks?" I'm like, "Actually, I don't. I just don't keep them here."
Right, right. Yeah.
Um, so I love that. Thank you for that tip.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, and that's actually that, making the behavior or making the behavior in this case, like eating the snacks that you don't want to be eating, like making that harder to do is also a strategy as well. So yeah, keeping something that's specifically that you are trying to avoid out of the house can work. At, at some point you may be approached with that food, when it's in front of you, but at least if you're not used to eating it super often, um, you're not necessarily going to feel as much like over desire for it when you
Right.
do run into that food.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's important for our listeners to also understand the difference between whole foods and processed foods and ultra processed foods. So really quick definitions. A whole food is a real food. It's the closest basically to how you would find it in nature. So essentially the way I think about it is this food has one ingredient and it's what I'm seeing, like a fruit or a vegetable or an egg. Um, this obviously is the best when we talk about whole food diet. This is kind of what we're referring to. And then processed food is altered but still recognizable, like olive oil, it's made from olives, canned beans. They're still beans, they've just been altered. And then ultra processed is really what we want to stay away from. So processed doesn't inherently mean bad, but ultra processed food is industrially manufactured products. And I guess what makes them bad is that they're actually stripped of all the nutrients and they're rebuilt with additives and sugars and refined ingredients. So that's also some things to keep in mind. And do you have any tips for people when they're shopping, how to make better choices? Because that's
Yeah.
like where it starts, really.
Yes, absolutely. So interestingly, many, many years ago, my ex-husband, he was like, I always shop the perimeter of the grocery store. And this was before I started getting into this world of of coaching. But I was like, that is so smart because that's where all the produce is, and then the dairy and the meats and everything. So that is probably my biggest tip. Like really try to stick to that perimeter, and then of course you're going to probably need some things from the center aisles. Um, but even just if you're someone who is trying to really trying to focus on the whole foods and maybe just like the lighter processed foods and stay away from the ultra processed foods, be very intentional about what aisles you are going into. Like, don't just walk up and down every single aisle. Maybe decide ahead of time, like, okay, these are have that list that you've already written out, and then just go in those specific aisles.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I try to remind myself of that every time because
Yeah.
it's just kind of fun to walk the aisle sometimes, but I know it is so not good for me and I don't need to do that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, totally. And then it just uses more time, right? So it's kind
Yeah,
of a win-win
exactly.
situation if you just stick to the
And I always
perimeter
walk
and
out, yeah, with worse food. I pay more, so stick to the perimeters, everyone.
yes, exactly. And I think a mindset tip to really help with this and help with choosing, the whole foods and maybe sticking with the lighter processed foods versus the ultra processed foods is just thinking of your body as like deserving the very best, right? It deserves to feel good, so you deserve to put foods in it that have all those phytonutrients and have a lot of the micronutrients in them. And not that, chips or Oreos are bad. Those foods, I always tell my clients, like those foods serve a purpose because we do work on food neutrality, like not thinking of like one food as bad or one as good, because then you can start thinking about yourself as good or bad if you're eating those foods. So every food does serve a purpose, even if it's just purely calories or deliciousness,
Yeah,
right?
for your soul.
Right, exactly. But thinking about it as, oh, I want to put more foods in me that are going to make my body feel really good because I deserve to feel really good.
hmm Absolutely. I heard, I think from a book or a podcast one time about ultra processed foods. And so some examples of that also are things like you mentioned protein bars or chips or anything packaged, fast foods. And somebody had referred to ultra processed food as a food-like substance. So once I heard that, it just kind of helped me think about ultra processed food as not even like real food. Like
Right.
if you look at a rock, you're not going to want to eat it because it's not food.
Right.
So it kind of helped me to change my perspective on ultra processed food. And now when I see it, I'm like, it's not even food. It's not going to fuel me. It's not going to help
Mhm.
my body. So hopefully that may help
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, those little mindset things do really
Mhm.
help. Yep. So it all depends on like what kind of clicks and
Right.
yeah, that's awesome
What
that that
speaks
helps
to you?
you. Yeah, definitely. All right, so you ready to dive into how much to eat?
I sure am.
All right. So I feel like there's this whole like spectrum, right? Of like under eating all the way to overeating and then even overeating, we can kind of even go beyond that to more extreme of binge eating. I don't know that we're necessarily going to go all that extreme with this conversation, but yeah, so for I could talk all day long about overeating, for sure. But yeah, I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on all of that.
Awesome. Great, because I can talk all day long about under eating.
Nice.
Yeah, I think for in my experience with working with a lot of women, it is so common to be underfed, to undereat, and to feel like you have to eat so little calories and constantly do these very intense workouts. And then unfortunately, it's like continues with the weight gain, and you're just feeling super burnt out, and that kind of crashes the metabolism. So I know it's a also a really big mind shift to understand that we actually have to add a lot more calories and have like a reset phase before we can go into calorie deficits and things like that to help us get to our goal weight. So yeah, I think a lot of women especially are underfed, but we also could be undernourished and overfed.
Yep. Yep.
So we could be eating a lot of the wrong things and have a high calorie intake while our body is actually not getting those micronutrients and phytonutrients. So there's a lot of rabbit holes we can go down, but I think it's also important to understand that our body evolved to do one thing, which is survive. And
Yep.
so, if we're not feeding the body and giving the body fuel, it's going to store whatever it can as fat. And eventually, it's actually going to take sugar and energy from our muscles. So, if we're trying to build muscle and feel good, we absolutely have to shift our mindset on how we're fueling our body.
Yeah, totally, totally. And what I see a lot is perfectionists that, because many women are perfectionists and trying to be perfect with the eating during the day, and perfect as in eating very little. So
Mhm.
then your body is feeling restricted. So then, like you mentioned, because our body and brain have one main purpose and to keep us alive. And so then when it comes nighttime, this leads to a lot of overeating at dinner, and a lot of nighttime eating, a lot of excessive snacking, just because of the under eating during the day, and then our body trying to make up for it later at night. And also our brain, I feel like, resists as well because it's like with perfectionist, at least, that perfectionist mentality, because it's like we really want to be eating certain foods. And if we're trying to restrict away from certain foods, we can end up just rebelling in
Mhm.
a way. Um, so that's why I think, kind of what we talked about earlier with, don't just eliminate all the cookies, you know,
Mhm.
kind of adding something in so that you are getting enough nutrients there. You're getting those micronutrients, you're getting the calories, but it's not necessarily like something where you're really fighting yourself of like, oh, I can't have cookies at all, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. Exactly. So we don't want to just um, tell everyone, okay, take this out and this out and this out. We have to substitute it with what are we going to bring in? And sometimes, actually, if just focusing on things to add in the diet, sometimes naturally removes the things that we want to take away anyway.
Mhm.
So yes, absolutely. I think on like what I typically look at in blood work with my patients, especially in women that are undernourished and overexercised, is I see that undernourishment really greatly affects our thyroid, our adrenal glands, our liver, our hormones. And so kind of everything is out of balance and your body is just kind of fighting again to survive. So we need this period of time where we're actually maybe decreasing our workouts and increasing our nutrients. And one thing that you mentioned is like the late night snacking. I would say out of all habit changes, I would say the one that I've seen work the best is shifting your eating window to earlier in the day.
Hmm.
It
Yep.
makes such a huge difference for so many people, because I guess we're coming out of this craze of intermittent fasting, and a lot of people just wake up, get to their day, are super busy in the morning, and don't prioritize fuel, which leads to a really big appetite later in the day.
Yep, exactly. I see this a lot as well in my clients. And what would you say are some signs that we might be able to recognize, that our listeners might be able to recognize of under eating? Like, what are some things that they might be feeling, some symptoms, some signs of
Mhm.
undernourishment, under eating?
I would say fatigue is a really,
Hmm.
really big one, because your body just doesn't have the fuel source. Brain fog is
Hmm.
also a really big one. Weight gain, that you're eating so little and you're working out, but you're still putting on weight. It's just a stuck metabolism.
Yep.
Poor sleep as well can be a sign of under eating, and changes in menstrual cycles as
Hmm.
well can be one. So yeah, these are things, if you're experiencing any, then there can be really huge beneficial results with just tailoring a nutrition plan.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And interestingly, a lot of these symptoms can also be, I feel like women in the perimenopause stage can notice these as well. So it can probably get a little bit confusing,
Yes,
as
it is
like
all,
which is
yeah.
which.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of symptoms are multifactorial, but these
Mhm.
symptoms they're just the signs that are telling us that, hey, something's off, something's going on. And I think one thing in Western medicine is that we tend to disconnect a lot of areas of the body. Like, is it the brain, or is it the heart, or is it the gut, or is it the hormones? But in reality, it's one system.
Hmm.
So there's so many things that can cause similar symptoms, but also if you fix, or yeah, if you improve on a few lifestyle habits, then you can also target all of those symptoms and improve them at the same time.
Right. Amazing. Yes. Yes. Also, I think too, it's, these symptoms, that you can be feeling like don't feel good, and these signs of these things. But if we look at them as just helpful clues, and I think especially like us as like healthcare providers, right? We're always used to looking at those as helpful clues to find a diagnosis. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, instead of thinking that as something bad necessarily, it's like, oh, these are actually clues as to
Mhm.
something may be going on. So let's,
Absolutely.
let's bring this up to my provider and see if we can investigate further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about learning how to listen and hear your body. Exactly what you're saying. These are clues, and a lot of the time we're unfortunately conditioned to think that it's just normal. But yeah, I just really want everyone to hear me out that it's not normal. You do not have to live with fatigue and brain fog and anxiety and bloating and all of that all the time. Um, but we do have to kind of figure out at the root what is causing it and
Yes,
target that.
exactly, exactly. And speaking of which, you had mentioned kind of just listening to your body and learning your body. Um, for for a lot of the women that I help, we absolutely under eating in the early part of the day for sure comes in, and a lot of times will then lead to overeating
Mm,
later. One of the things that I teach is really just tuning into your body and trusting that your body will let you know, like, hey, do I need, like, what do I need? Do I need food? Do I need some energy? Do I need, do I not need it? You know, trusting those hunger signals. So the first step of that really is learning your hunger signals, like what actually alerts you that it might be time to eat. So for many people, it is like the stomach growling, that empty feeling. For other people, it might be fatigue, it might be brain fog, it might be a headache or nausea or
mm,
mood changes. So just learning what your signs of, when is it actually time for me to eat something can be very helpful in trusting that your body is going to let you know because our body naturally wants to survive. And
mm,
so therefore it almost think of like your body as like having your own back as far
mm,
as making sure that you have the calories you need. So even just making a habit of checking in and maybe a certain meal of the day, you can start easily checking in like, oh, am I hungry? Partway through the meal, like have my hunger signals gone away? How am I actually feeling? And just the skill of tuning into your body then helps you better be able to respond to your body's actual needs. So if you're feeling hungry in the morning, eat breakfast. You know,
yeah.
if
I
you're,
actually
sorry, go
think
ahead.
that's like such a beautiful connection because at the end of the day, if you are not connected to your body, then all of these tips and tricks and protocols and everything is just, it might work a little bit or for a little bit, but it's not going to work as well as the protocol actually can be effective for you. So one thing, not even related to like nutrition or health, I just started working with a like personal development coach, and I'm trying to work on my intuition. And I asked her, how can I work on this? And she was like, just throughout your day, slow down and ask yourself, what do I want to wear? What color do I want to wear? Do I want to wear red today? Do I want to drink cold water or hot water? Just like these really little habits, again, that can help us form our intuition and connection. And it I think it can be translated to food as well. And a big
Yeah,
part of it is slowing down. We're
yeah.
all go, 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 always, sympathetic, overdrive, and that actually does impact how our body digests food because
Mhm.
it doesn't quite get the signals of, hey, I'm gonna sit down and have a meal and chew my food. And so your body has time to produce stomach acid and digestive enzymes and things like that. So you can be killing two birds with one stone if you slow down, think about, do I want to eat? Am I hungry? What do I want to eat? And also supporting what we call the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps your body digest food. So I love those tips. What are some specific tips? I know you like sounds like you work a lot with women that overeat. Is there anything that you have seen that works particularly well?
Yeah, it goes along just with that, actually, with checking in to see if you have hunger signals or also checking in to see how else you might be feeling. So a lot of my listeners and a lot of my client and actually prob all of my clients, I will say, they are eating for reasons other than like actual like physical need of food. So other than hunger. So a lot of emotional eating, that can be stress eating, boredom eating, sadness, loneliness eating. So checking in to see, am I hungry or is it something else that I'm feeling right now that's making me want food? Or even a thought that we're having, I deserve this after a tough day.
Mm,
That thought can then lead to eating as well. So just taking that pause and checking in with your body, just as you had said with, checking in with your intuition, like what do I actually want? This one is kind of just like, what do I actually need? Like, am I feeling stressed and not hungry? Maybe I need something to truly lower my stress, increase my parasympathetic nervous system, and calm down the sympathetic nervous system. Maybe I need to go for a little bit of fresh air outside or pet my dog.
Right.
So tuning in and seeing what you actually need in that moment. And the more you do this, the more you see your patterns, the more you are able to fulfill what you actually need. So then there's less often that your brain is going to suggest food for
Mm-hmm.
for that thing. Maybe, it's going to suggest food for stress less often because you're actually giving your body what you need, truly need for stress.
Wow, that's very interesting. And I know that, I've heard in the past, and I've tried to work on this for myself as well, is it absolutely a lot of the time is a stress response.
Mhm.
And also food is an addiction for many people. I think for most, I mean, yeah, for I would say for most people. So one thing that I have like thought through is what else can I do, like you're saying, to support myself if it's not going to be food. What is going to relieve my stress, or what is going to help me through like this withdrawal for a different habit as opposed to reaching for food. So I think that's exactly what you're saying. So very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, we've hit on what and how much. So I think naturally this kind of flows into when to eat, right? Yeah. So for me, like I help my clients get into that normal cycle of hunger, and hunger and feeling like they've eaten enough. But this can, of course, be nuanced. And I know you probably have a lot to say on some tips and things that you recommend to your patients.
Mhm.
So, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to talk about when and how because it's not just about what. So I think we touched on this a little bit, like the intermittent fasting patterns and not having breakfast. I think just in general, when I'm working with my patients and we're trying to improve lifestyle, even if they don't really have any issues with their diet, number one thing is I always ask and tell them, please have breakfast.
Mhm.
Because just so many people don't, and it throws off honestly everything. It throws off your physiology, your hormones, your stress hormones, your energy. And then people most definitely end up eating a lot of calories at night. And the other, habit that we want to get away from is eating close to bedtime. So if we're simultaneously just moving the eating window up, you can eat, exactly as you have been. Just the first thing we're going to focus on is moving the eating window up. So what I usually like to recommend is having some sort of food within 60, at least 90 minutes of waking up. It basically, signals your body, your cortisol rises when you wake up, and that also increases your blood sugar and things like that. So the longer you go without food, your cortisol and your blood sugar are just going to keep rising if we're not fueling the body. Um, Focusing on protein in the morning. I think in general, we've kind of over glamorized protein. Like you don't have to just eat protein all day long.
Right.
But you do want to have some protein in each meal. And I think a good way to really easily measure that is like the palm of your hand. So whatever protein source you're eating, if you don't want to count or track or weigh, you can just kind of eyeball the palm of your hand. And I think the last thing is try not to have coffee on an empty stomach. Because again, that raises your cortisol and blood sugar, um, and negatively impact stress, and you may crash during the day and things like that. So you can still have your coffee in the morning, have some protein, have breakfast, have water, and then have coffee.
I am
What
so
about you?
guilty of drinking the coffee first thing. I eat breakfast every morning, like pretty, in that window for sure, because I do feel very hungry for breakfast when I wake up. But
That's a
yeah, it's
great
like
sign.
yeah. The coffee though, it's like it's so much quicker just to start that coffee machine and just start sipping on that and do a little work and then go and get breakfast. So that's so interesting. So I'm gonna think about you now when when I start sipping that
Yeah.
coffee and be like, no, 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 wait, we're gonna eat
Can
first.
replace your coffee with a glass of water
Yeah.
and then go for your coffee after breakfast.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yes. And I for sure know that my clients feel that eat breakfast in the morning, like feel a lot better. They enjoy eating breakfast in the morning. They enjoy waking up and feeling hungry for it. And if you feel like you're not hungry for breakfast, like one of the things that I have found that you can do is you can eat eat that bit of breakfast in that intended window or intentional window. And once you start doing this, you'll typically start overeating less at night, or naturally that window kind of starts moving up at night. So then you're not some people will go to bed feeling full because they've eaten so much at night and then they just don't feel hungry the next morning for breakfast. So shifting everything a little bit earlier, and then you'll start feeling those hunger signals in the morning for breakfast. And then it can feel so much more satisfying when you're eating to relieve the hunger as well,
Mhm.
instead of just
Absolutely.
like eating when you're not feeling the hunger signals.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it. And it just kind of becomes this vicious cycle of exactly what you just described. So, what are some um, tips or habits that you use with your clients to kind of get out of this cycle and get
Yeah.
into a more ideal eating window?
Yeah, so this one, similar to the first tip of making the behavior easier to do, like the intended thing easier to do. And in the evening, set some things up to make it easier for you to have something to eat in the morning for breakfast and have something to eat while you're not doing everything else at the same time. So actually just taking that 10 minutes to eat mindfully. So basically eating mindfully, I think in its most simplest terms is eating while undistracted. So you're kind of slowing things down. You're not checking your email on your phone. You're not eating in the car. You're not eating while doing other things. You've actually created a little bit of space in the morning. You've gotten some things out the night before. Even just like, let's just say you're going to have oatmeal. Taking out a bowl and spoon and the oatmeal and setting it on the counter can be a nice visual trigger or visual reminder that you're going to have breakfast. And then it makes it easier and quicker to do, even if your brain is like, oh, I have so many things to do this morning. I have to, do all these things to rush out the door. Half of it's already done for you. So it just, I think, takes away a lot of the friction.
Mhm.
So then it's just easier to do. And then, like you said, naturally, eating earlier in the day, because then you're more likely going to not be under eating in the first half of the day. You're going to be less likely to be overeating at night. So then it's going to be easier for you in the morning to feel like, oh, I actually do want food.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So just trying to break out of this habit by maybe having like a lighter dinner or something, or a little bit of an earlier dinner, just to kind of signal your body so that when you wake up, you are feeling more hungry. But this is not something that, you just wake up one day and your schedule has changed. So there's a lot of like patience and grace and compassion and all of that um we have to think about to show up for ourselves, because at the end of the day, this is all pattern change and behavior change, and it's the hardest thing to do. The habits themselves are not, they're not that hard. They're simple, but they're not easy to do. So
Right.
absolutely, these things take time, and the 1 or 2 weeks where you're shifting things around, you may not understand, you may not feel great, but once you kind of come out the other side. I've, had all basically all my patients are like, wow, I feel so much better and I wish I started this journey earlier. So I love
Yeah.
those tips.
Yes, definitely. And you make such a great point too. Like if someone is used to not eating until lunchtime, say like 12, 1 o'clock, it's going to feel very hard to then all of a sudden have this breakfast at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. So even just making the small change of, okay, maybe we eat something at 10,
Mm-hmm.
for this week. And then next week, maybe we try to move that up to 9 and kind of making those small changes. And I think that's where a mindset shift of like this doesn't be have to be perfect or drastic or occur all at once. you know,
Mm-hmm.
each week I can kind of make the change to kind of get closer to where I want to be. So then there's a lot less pressure on it.
Absolutely. And I think that's actually the most sustainable way long term because we
Yeah.
know, these quick fixes and quick changes, they're typically not long lasting. So just kind of, somebody is listening and wanting to make these changes, I think it's important to have those expectations that you're just
Mhm.
going to take, one small bite at a time and know that your body is going through a lot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. So speaking of habits, so as a weight loss coach and primarily focusing on eating habits, I also help with clients creating movement, move your body habits. I don't like to use the term exercise because some people are like very much like, I hate exercise,
Mm-hmm.
but they love moving their body. So
Exactly.
move your body habits, sleep habits, hydration habits.
Yeah.
Hydration habits, I think, are something that, all of these play a really big part in food and nutrition. But I think hydration habits, I hear a lot from people, I need to hydrate more. Like they know it,
Yeah.
right? Sleep, of course, as well. But yeah,
Mhm.
let's talk about hydration specifically.
Awesome. Yes, I definitely hear that a lot as well. And to be honest, when my days are busy, I also need to hydrate more. So, it's always a an ongoing journey. Hydration is, of course, as we know, super important. Our body is made up of so much water. Our cells need water. Um, And it also, I think, really helps with hunger cues. Sometimes our hunger signals are actually just thirst. So keeping up with your hydration can actually really greatly reduce your appetite if you're somebody that struggles with overeating or feeling really hungry. So that's just a really simple way to support your body if you're trying to eat less food or lose weight. The other thing about hydration is we could be drinking water, but we may not be hydrating our body as you take a sip of water.
Right.
So a simple like self-test you can do is if you drink a cup of water and you pee within 60 to yeah, even 60 to 90 minutes of drinking a glass of water, that that's a sign that your cells are not actually taking up the hydration, the water.
Mm, makes sense.
Um, so some easy additions is electrolytes. Our cells need those electrolytes to bring in nutrients and water and hydration into the cells. So you can buy electrolytes on online anywhere, or you can simply make your own. So I like to put some lemon, just squeeze lemon and some salt in water. Occasionally I'll add ginger, and that gives me some good electrolytes. And just, you can add some salt on the top of your meals just to, again, increase your electrolyte intake.
That sounds delicious. The
It sure
not the
is.
salt on top of the milk, but the yeah, the citrus and the ginger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's not only like really helping with hydration, it also is a great way to start the morning just because it, again, it activates your digestive system. So it tells your gallbladder to make bile, which is important in digestion. It tells your stomach and pancreas to start making stomach acid and pancreatic enzymes to help you digest food once you start eating. So it kind of wakes your digestive system up while also giving you some good electrolytes and hydration,
Yeah, our body is so fascinating.
isn't it?
Yes, it's pretty awesome. So I know that there's probably some of our audience that's like, well, don't we get our electrolytes from food? So what would you, as far as like adding it to your actual water, what would you say in response to that?
I would say that unfortunately, our food quality is just, it's not what it used to be. That's
Mm,
why it's kind of the same conversation regarding supplements. If I'm getting this through my food, why do I have to supplement? Unfortunately, just because the quality of our soil and our food is not what it used to be hundreds of years ago. So we're not getting enough of nutrition just from our daily diet, especially if our diet consists of a lot of processed food, because that's
yeah.
further ripping these nutrients out. So I think that, if you're hydrating and also using the bathroom a lot, then that tells me that you need a little bit more electrolytes. If you are doing intense workouts and sweating and using the sauna, you're getting rid of even more electrolytes. So in that case, it's even more important um, to get some from external sources.
Yeah, so that's such a great point. It's so eye-opening. I read a book that was like almost, and I forget, it was years ago, so I don't remember the title. But it was almost entirely about how our food now is just so stripped. So it's like you might think an I don't know, zucchini has all of these nutrients in it. And yeah, absolutely, they do have nutrients. But I'm sure if they compared it now to 50 years ago,
Mhm.
I know also too, like I've heard that I think in this book I read that in other countries like Europe where they do farming a different way, their food has more nutrients in it.
Mhm.
Here in the US, it's very different. It's very much like mass produced, and they need to do it in the cheapest way possible, or they want to do it in the cheapest way possible. So they
Mhm.
don't, they end up using the same soil over and over and over again to grow our crops here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not as strictly regulated in the US. And yeah, in other countries, they definitely have more nutrients and also less pesticides and toxins.
Mm.
And so, that's why you probably always hear about people going to Italy and having pasta and pizza and having no digestive issues and not gaining any weight because the quality of the food actually makes a really big difference.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, Liz, do you feel like it's better? Because I know this is another question our audience is going to have. Like, do you feel like it's better to, in the morning, like chug a whole bunch of water, or and throughout the day, kind of like chug a glass when you get a chance? Or do you feel like it's better to kind of more consistently sip throughout?
That's a great question. It is definitely better to consistently sip water throughout the day.
Yeah.
There's just no need to drink so much water all at once. This is also a very common like protein question. If I
Mhm.
just get all of my protein in the morning, um, I think the best answer is whatever you can stick to and is most convenient for you to just get it done. But the second best answer is to do it throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think starting like I always recommend to start your day with a glass of water, whether it has lemon, salt, electrolytes, and then just sip on water throughout the day for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know for my clients who are coffee drinkers, it's like, all right, listen, let's do a glass of water with the coffee. And the
Mhm.
goal is to finish the glass of water by the time that first, mug of coffee is done. So then they feel really good. Like okay, at least I got that full glass of water in, along with that coffee. But now I'm going to have them make sure that they're eating before they drink that coffee.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, that is also a great tip is if you are drinking coffee, which many of us do, is you have to add in a little bit of extra hydration because coffee is dehydrating.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can even feel, I feel like if I just had a mug of coffee and then went to that second mug, like I feel dehydrated. Like you
Yes.
just don't feel good.
Yeah, I definitely notice that I feel even like, well, I typically don't feel jittery, but if I'm
Mhm.
dehydrated and have caffeine, then I notice the jitteriness a lot more.
Yeah, for
That's an
sure.
interesting catch.
Yes, totally. So, oh, sorry.
So yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about sleep and how do you like to, or what do you see work well in terms of habit changes with sleep? Because I think this is probably one of the bigger issues
Mhm.
um that a lot of us have is not being on a good sleep schedule and not getting enough sleep and maybe not getting good quality sleep, all of these things. So what have you seen work, not work?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm now an expert on sleep because I actually I had battled insomnia for de like pretty much my entire life, and I recently saw a therapist. She did cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia for me, so I learned a ton from her. So small change, I had always known like small changes were good, just in general when we're talking about changing habits. It's a lot easier for our brain to process and do and doesn't feel so daunting if we're, changing something in small steps. So one of the things with sleep is let's just say you typically go to bed at midnight and you wake up at 5 a.m. So 5 hours of sleep, not enough sleep. And you want to, let's just say your goal is to get 8 hours of sleep. If you start going to bed at 9, your body is not going to be used to that. And
Yep.
so you're going to be lying in bed most likely. I mean, unless you're just to the point that you're just so overly exhausted and you're someone that can fall asleep like anytime, anywhere you want to. Um, you know, but it's actually better to just slowly increase that time that you're going to bed. Some people, though, they find it easier to sleep in. So you can also increase your sleep duration by moving your wake up time later. So it really depends on what your preference is. And also, too, of course, what fits in well with your life and your job. But whatever end you decide to do it at, try to keep one end the same. So, like for me, I like waking up at 6 a.m. Works well with my schedule. I'm energized in the morning, and so she recommended keeping that 6 a.m. and moving the bedtime little by little.
Mhm.
So the other thing with sleep is try not to control it too much. We tend to do a lot of things to try to control our sleep, and if we're not getting enough of it, and especially if we're insomniacs, and what that ends up doing, we have good intentions because we are trying to actively improve our sleep. However, when we're trying to take all these supplements for it, or we're trying to go to bed, several hours earlier to make up for last night, or we're trying to, do all these things, our cortisol levels can actually raise. So then we actually become more stressed around sleep. And then our brain links sleep with stress.
Mhm.
Um, our brain also links lying in bed awake with, um, or sorry, lying in bed. Like if you are lying awake in bed and not able to fall asleep, your brain associates the bed with not sleep. So, or the bed with being awake. So trying not to lay in bed for too long of a period of time, um, even if it feels counterintuitive to get up and move yourself to a different room because you feel like, well, I just want to fall asleep. So how can I fall asleep if I'm like, on the living room couch instead? But really, the more you are lying in bed awake, your brain is associating that bed with being awake. So that's really where like that I think that cognitive behavioral therapy kind of comes into play is like what your brain is associating with sleep and with the bed.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. I know that that's definitely something I've heard before as well. And even nights that I can't fall asleep, I try to remind myself, like you just keep looking at the clock and you're like, okay, and now I have 6 hours, and now I have 5.5 hours, and you just get more and more nervous. And
Mhm.
that does, I feel more stimulated, and so I can't fall asleep. So I think that's a great tip. I have like just try to get out of my bed. And even if I have to walk to the bathroom and then get back in, or walk and like maybe get a sip of water or something, just to kind of like break that cycle, has been really helpful. I think some things that are important for a sleep environment is making sure that we are in a cool, dark, and quiet environment. Sometimes the environment can play a really big role too without people kind of like noticing. So, the ideal temperature is actually pretty cool. If you think about, our ancestors, our biology evolved to live in our ancestors' world, but our current world is so far ahead of that that our body just hasn't caught up yet. So, they went to sleep when the sun went down, when it was dark, it was quiet, and it was cool at night. So the ideal temperature, I think, is somewhere around like 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to make sure it's dark. So what has helped me is just a simple eye mask has helped me drastically to fall asleep, and making sure that it's a quiet environment.
Yeah,
Thing.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I need those things as well. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people like the white noise machines, and
Mhm.
there is a lot of data out there that can that supports like that kind of noise. And I'm almost wondering if it's because it like can simulate the sounds of nature, even like
Yeah.
the constant sounds that maybe our caveman ancestors were hearing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I think also what I like to recommend for my patients is a morning and bedtime routine. So I think the white noise may also be calming, because
mhm.
sometimes even listening to like ocean or the waves or just sounds of nature is really calming for our nervous system. So we're, generally very stimulated. We're always working or cooking or with families or on our phones or emails. Your nervous system is always in kind of what we call parasympathetic overdrive, which stimulates cortisol production and wakes your brain up. So it's really hard to expect to shut your phone off, close your computer, and then fall asleep. Your brain
Yep.
kind of needs that like winding down, which
Yeah.
is really important to start some sort of a bedtime routine, and it can look different for everybody. Again, different things will speak to different people, but I like to talk about meditations, a simple breathing exercise. Breathing is insanely powerful and changes our physiology. So you can even do like 5 box breaths. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. Maybe journaling just to kind of get thoughts out. Maybe for some people it's prayer, or maybe going for like a 10-minute walk
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
just to kind of really help your nervous system wind down, has been really helpful for many people.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of having that buffer zone that you've set aside, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes,
Mhm.
um, to transition into that sleep mode. And I think journaling really helps quite a bit with, I know for my clients for sure, because then they're getting those thoughts out on paper and out of their head. So, and then some of them will even have a notepad on their nightstand in the middle of the night. If they wake up thinking about something, they can jot it down. And just knowing that they've jotted it down and it's out of their head and onto the paper, they can fall back to sleep pretty easily. So,
Yeah. Wow. That's
yeah.
pretty cool. I haven't heard of that one yet. I like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
those nights, yeah, there are
Yep.
definitely nights where you just wake up and you just, start thinking. And that's a
Mhm.
big one that keeps people up, is like is the racing thoughts. So I find that for me and a lot of my patients and even like family and friends is doing breathing or putting on like a YouTube meditation is really helpful just to kind of yeah, bring your focus away from your thoughts. One other
Mhm.
thing that I have been doing that I absolutely love is a vagus nerve stimulator. Are you familiar with one?
I am not familiar with one. I'm familiar with the
Well,
vagus nerve, but
okay, there you go. So, a vagus nerve is what stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest and like recover part of our nervous system, as opposed to the sympathetic, which is when we're always like on, go, go, go. So these are devices. There are many of them that electric like through electric stimulation stimulate your vagus nerve. So it goes around your neck because our vagus nerve runs through our neck here, and you wear it once or twice a day for like a 5 minute session. They have different focuses, like you can put on your session for stress or anxiety or burnout or sleep. And it has been super helpful for myself and a lot of my patients. And um, one thing we've all noticed is it also increases HRV, heart rate variability, which is just another marker of kind of like your body's physiological stress. So it can kind of help on a lot of fronts, and it's really simple. Um, it could also be useful because people like many people have a hard time of just sitting down, but if you have something to do, like put this thing
Mhm.
on, turn it on your app, that's really helpful to kind of slow down again.
So true. Yeah, that's a great little trick. Yeah. I jotted that down because I want to look into one of these. My
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's
I will send you the one I
interesting.
have. It's
Hmm.
been amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Well, I feel like we covered a ton as far as, I mean, we went through nutrition, um, all the different things associated with that, like what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, all the way to coffee and sleep habits and hydration habits. Pretty
Yes, you
awesome,
covered
pretty
a
thorough.
lot. Hopefully it wasn't too much or too overwhelming, but yeah, no, it's been really fun.
Yes, awesome. All right. So, yeah, this was such a great conversation, Liz. And I hope that all of our listeners took away some, even if you didn't take rigorous notes during this episode, took away some key things that are easy to implement and at least took away a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that at least one thing, you know, stuck with everybody that can kind of be your grounding thing that you'll always look back on. And I think the one really important thing is show up for yourself with grace and compassion throughout the process.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yes. And Liz, for my listeners, because this is going to be the audio form of this is going to be on my podcast for my listeners, where can they best find you?
My practice is called Align Daily Wellness. So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My website is align-daily-wellness.com. So I'm Align Daily Wellness on all platforms.
Awesome. Awesome. That's makes it super easy, right?
Yes. And what about you? Where can my YouTube listeners find you?
Yeah, so my eating habits for life is the name of my podcast, and in that we cover similar things as to here, less on nutrition, more on eating habits, eating behaviors in particular, and also the a lot of the mindset that's goes along to help with that. And then my website, katemjohnston.com. And then I'm also on LinkedIn under Kate Johnston and Instagram, Kate Johnston Coaching.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast and getting this amazing information out to so many people. I can't wait to
Yeah,
do it again.
absolutely. And thank you for inviting me onto your YouTube as well. So fabulous.
Amazing.